Salam everyone. Today, I take on the life of a 15th century Dravidian Persianophile ruling over the largest sultanate in all of Hindustan. My sole concern is to amass the largest collection of erotic Persian art. Welcome to Bahmanis, Persian weebs who rule over the Deccan. Taking advantage of their liege's visit with the peaceful Tamerlane, they became an independent state. At least that's one story. The Bahmani perspective is that they are descendants of the mythological Persian king Bahman. This is detailed greatly in Bahmani fanfiction. Blessed with access to the world's supply of diamonds in the mines of Golconda, the Persianite weebs established their vast Deccan empire. But even with the best drip in the world, problems abound for the Sultan. For one, the mostly Hindu population of India doesn't know or give a shit about Ali ibn Abi Talib. Speaking of Hindus, Vijayanagar, a name I didn't pronounce correctly the first time, concentrates much of their power in the oddly exposed city of Victory. They are the premier power in southern India, matching or eclipsing the Bahmanis in most categories. Unfortunate given their taste for my lands. Now, war is a gruesome affair, but it was a common pastime in the Indian Thunderdome. The pizza slice squeezes in many competing religions and cultures on top of the most valuable land in the world. My plan was to cripple my rival before they grew too wealthy and politically annoying. So in 1445, hot elephant on elephant action consumed India. Vijayanagar had the advantage in allies, meaning I was outnumbered while they were outmatched by my EU4 experience, which did not save my nation from multiple losses. RNGesus has clearly lost favor with me, but Vijayanagar had a weird, possibly sexual attraction to my vassal's forts. Distracted, I took the urban center of winning. Forcing a showdown, this time I crushed their recapture efforts and wiped out the survivors, leaving my greatest threat vulnerable. Following Bahmani occupation, we took land, sacked the capital, and relocated the development to Bidar. A very productive day. South India was now free real estate, and I soon got pretty thick. It's impossible to screw up as Bahmanis. Once Vijayanagar is dealt with, there won't be another Indian state to challenge you militarily. Aided by your broken mission tree, you'll be warring in all directions, juggling truces between kingdoms to avoid a coalition. Easy stuff. China briefly gave me a heart attack after rivaling and insulting me, but they never invaded me. I got lucky, unlike the mythic Knights of Rhodesia. Undeterred, I continued to blob, gobbling up every Indian state unfortunate enough to dispute my modest territorial claims. But soon all would face the wrath of the Sword of Islam, as the spirit of Imam Ali had infiltrated the dreams of the Sultan, inspiring him to cleanse the heretical Sunnis and the heathen Hindus from what will be soon Hindustan. Either that or he was suffering from syphilis. This resulted in a Shia-flavored jihad from the Bay of Bengal to the heartland of Iran, connecting us to our ancient ancestors and creating some absolutely disgusting borders, which we shared with the Ottoman Sultanate. So this whole time I have deceived you, as this was a multiplayer session, or more accurately a variety of small single-player campaigns. Ottomans, Brunei, once Palembang, Great Britain, Sakalava, Russia, and Spain. We didn't have a lot of interaction, which meant that there were a lot of nations to gobble up. I ended up with the most development and the most valuable trade node in the world. I also switched countries not once, but twice. This was a great period of military adventurism, until, as always in EU4 multiplayer, boredom began to creep into the minds of players. What started between the Franglish and Ottomans turned into a 1v1-ish between Ottomans and Hindustan. To compare the two sides, Hindustan forces had the edge in morale, but were pathetically dwarfed by the vast professional Janissary army of the Ottomans. To remedy this, Hindustan built the Great Wall of Persia to hold back the Ottomans. It also focused heavily on its income. But let's do something different. After hearing my voice this entire time, with the magic of editing, you can hear the witty banter with my friends in real time.
I have like 200 ships all praying. Great notice. And he just noticed. They've been doing that since we first went to war.
Masterofroflness.
Remember when I was like, oh, I need to starve his people? I was like, oh, I should go privateer. He just now noticed. Sucking off the teat of Hindustan.
With my footage having slight audio issues, I'll have to go with Plan B, an overly edited retelling. As your history textbooks have taught you, the Hindustani army made a surprise offensive on the Ottoman border, hoping for meddling in the Franglish conflict to bog down the Turks. This was at a crucial time as the Ottomans had no forts. The road to Constantinople was open with my army able to occupy most of Asia Minor unopposed. Stopping at the Straits of Marmara, the Turks caught our forces outside the capital, and the decisive battle played out in Kolkeklu?
Kosaeli.
Favorable terrain and the skills of Ahmed Sadar resulted in almost 100,000 dead Hindustanis and Ottoman victory, persuading the Stans to retreat behind the walls of Persia. Eventually, the entire Turkish army returned from Europe, reversing Hindustan's gains and launching their own counter-offensive. They quickly overwhelmed my defenses, pushing closer towards India and defeating every attempt I made to drive them out. Only after a few failed attempts did Hindustan defeat the Janissaries and soon recaptured their lost territory. These sweaty 18 minutes of invasion and counter-invasion were repeated 4 times, over the course of which the Ottoman manpower was obliterated from attrition, forcing the Sultan to slacken the requirements to his once prestigious army. But for all the good news, the Hindustans couldn't win without taking the war goal, which meant they were slowly losing.
Meanwhile,
As you know, the pirate empire of Brunei had slowly been stealing money from us since the start of this war, and this only grew worse as the war went on. Even after bribing the pirates with a small loan of 10k ducats, the privateering continued despite my naval efforts. As if managing a two-front war was bad enough, nations angry with my expansionist actions launched a coalition war against me, the strongest being China, who were still salty about Hindustani troops competing for who could pillage China faster. Managing 3 different fronts was practically impossible, so I had to make some concessions. I accepted the demands of the coalition, ignored pirates, and focused everything I had on the Ottoman front. With both nations hemorrhaging ducats and manpower in the last offenses of the war, the Ottomans made a desperate attempt to construct fortifications along the border. While successful, the Ottoman army this time broke completely, with Hindustan finally able to push forward for the kill. The subsequent battles to take Constantinople and Ottoman Europe were some of the most bloodiest, but they ended in crushing defeats for the exhausted and depleted Ottoman army. Eventually, I took Constantinople, the Ottomans soon surrendered, and the war was finally over, with Hindustan being the victor. Now the strongest country in the world, Hindustan set about making a peace deal that was respectful to both nations, and everybody lived happily ever after, until everyone decided to self-sabotage their respective nations. And that's it. I'd like to thank all the generous and magnanimous members of the Basari, a very original name for my supporters, especially Thor and Q Canadian. Without your support, I would starve and probably die, maybe revert to a more feral form. I also finally fixed my Discord link. It only took me 5 months. If you enjoyed this video, let me know about it, especially on the poll link down below. Making content and maintaining the current quality requires your input, so I'd like all of you to participate if you can. Goodbye and take care, my Azizams.